Welcome to Telling the Tale. I'm your host, Mitchell Farley Wolf, and as per always, I'm joined by the delightful and curious co-host, Dustin Jackson.
That's me, delightful and curious. Mitchell, where are you? The lights are off.
Oh, I'm over here. I'm over here.
Oh, there you are. What's this on the ground? Is this some sort of sword in the darkness? Oh, no, it's not.
No, what was it?
Oh, it was like a little... what have you?
Just like a little ground happening.
Yeah, just like a spot.
Yeah,
on the
that
ground.
happens. That's my favorite realization of an adventure game character that we've had to deal with a lot on this podcast. Just Guybrush or any of the Day of the Tentacle people just wandering around, clicking on things of like, oh, you think that's a thing, but the ground is just raised there slightly. You can't pick up the ground.
You thought that was a helpful item. It's just a ground.
Why would I pick up something I don't know what it is? And then you press look and then click the thing. And they're like, yeah, it looks like a thing I could pick up. And then you say pick up. It's like, too heavy. If only I had a tool to pick this up.
They're just like, nah.
I think there's a dog in that well.
I better go see if he's all right.
So we're talking today about Game of Thrones Episode 3, The Sword in the Darkness. I did not remember the episode was called that when you did your intro bit.
Oh, well, now you get it. My joke landed.
You know,
I assume.
I can vibe with a lot of the aesthetic and tonal decisions of Game of Thrones. The exception to that, I think, is the names of these episodes and the names of the books themselves. They are so seemingly in line with everything that I feel about, like, if I was just to imagine the platonic ideal of a generic fantasy story, I bet something is called The Sword in the Darkness.
Right. And I don't remember any sword in the darkness. There are swords, but, like, there's no, like, specific sword in darkness.
Well, hopefully, via our conversation this week, we can figure out which sword and which collection of darkness we're talking about. I'm not positive that I even have a theory as to which sword is the one referred to in the darkness.
Me either, but so help me God if we don't figure it out.
So Episode 3, The Sword in the Darkness, was released on March 24th, 2015. It was directed by Graham Ross, designed by Joe Ching, Matt Ulmer, and Chris Huckabout, written by Dan Martin, John Dombrow, and Joshua Rubin. A good collection of names. Thanks, guys. I am every week more and more, especially since Varum came here. Thanks again for guesting on the podcast, Varum. I'm positive I'm mispronouncing everyone's names, including Varum's, frankly. He names that, like Eric Sturpey, that I was certain I was pronouncing correctly. It turned out to be Sturpey instead of Sturps, so I'm now just very conscious about that.
Yeah, you can never be too sure.
Yeah,
Michael.
They should read out every video game's credits should be vocalized.
And they should enunciate.
Yeah, and it's
Michael Sturpey. Sturpey.
Well, they can't go that slow. That's the thing, because they're just scrolling off the screen. So it's like a speed reader, just shouting names very quickly.
It's pronounced Sturpey.
I thought it was Sturpey.
Thank you, speed reader.
So this episode in particular is. Would you agree that it's fair to describe it as one of our more typical middle episodes?
Yeah. Yes, because last episode we thought could have been it, but I thought the last episode was pretty good. Mm-hmm. This one, it's not bad, but it's not very eventful. Not a whole lot happens. Some stuff happens, but
yeah,
it definitely feels like we gotta take this time to build up to what's gonna happen later.
Yeah, we had a longer conversation last week about the concept of an episode 2 in one of these Walking Dead style games, and how it's usually a nadir, to use that word, for the second time today with you, Dustin.
Ooh.
In our interest in the series because of what episode 2s need to do in order to carry out the season and get everything to where it's trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, episode 2 was actually pretty eventful still, and was still trying a lot of new stuff. So we were thankful for that. And I think that maybe just because it's a 6-episode season, that responsibility was forwarded to episode 3.
Yeah.
And I think we have that episode now. Still, I would say not nearly as plotting is, I think, an excessively connotative word. I don't want to say it's plotting usually, because some of these episode 2s are still good, but they're slower.
Right.
But yeah, this is the one that does that.
We're hitting it now.
We are hitting that place in the season. Still liked it, I'd say. Just my opinion. But we're kind of there.
I thought it was fine. It didn't land for me as well as last week's, but I still thought it served its purpose fine. I didn't have a bad time going through it.
Yeah, I would rank it below either of the other 2 episodes of this season that we've played so far. Yeah. But still, good.
I don't know. I don't know if I would rank it beneath 1, but that's just more... I just feel like episode 1 was just kind of what I expected.
Interesting.
And, well, I went in with zero interest in Game of Thrones, and that episode didn't really do much to change my mind. And at least here in episode 3, I have these connections to these characters. I do want to see what's happening to them, so I feel more in it than I did in the first episode.
Yeah, I have a friend, and you have a friend, who we call the G-Man.
Oh, we're bringing up G-Man.
Yeah, G-Man's getting a shout out on this podcast because he asked for one. And G-Man doesn't really like Star Wars. And, I'm in no place to evangelize for Star Wars or on the behalf of Star Wars or anything. But right. I did ask him, so what's your experience with Star Wars? And he saw... he's actually not sure which ones he saw, but he saw one of the original trilogy and one of the prequel trilogy, and his interpretation of events there was just kind of yeah, it's just sort of everyone's in spaceships and the big bad guy's a robot, Darth Vader's a robot, I don't want to, and to me that's oh, that's wild because that's wrong about Star Wars. But I totally get how if you have a very minimalist introduction to Star Wars, some of the aspects of it of it's actually much more of a fantasy thing than a science fiction thing, but it doesn't feel like high fantasy because it's wrapped up in more aliens and spiritualism and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something if you go in and you're just closed off to it, then I could see someone going into Star Wars and saying, oh yeah, it's just exactly what I expected, not what I'm into. And I feel like if I wasn't contractually obligated to play this for a show, I wouldn't have played past episode 1 of Game of Thrones. If I decided to give it a chance.
I think we should clarify that you're not contractually obligated to do this podcast.
Right.
That's not real. But, I have not done that to you.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm in a spot where I do need to play these for this podcast I agreed to. And I'm more than happy to do it, but I'm just saying in a world where we weren't doing this podcast and I decided, you know what? If I liked Walking Dead, I gave Walking Dead a shot, maybe I'll end up liking this too. I would have played this and I would have said nope after episode 1. And even though this is basically what I expected, playing through episodes 2 and 3, you do get that some sort of attachment to what's going on and who you're with. Yeah, you definitely do. I think that if they were able to do what Walking Dead was able to do, which was to say don't worry about Rick Grimes. If you watch the show, you know who Rick Grimes is. You know what their section of the world's all about. But we're really focused on Lee and Clementine.
If Game of Thrones was able to do that, maybe if they went like 200, 300 years in the past or future of the events of the book series and show, and they were able to say like, yeah, you know, Westeros is a thing, and we've got some shared like lore about what Westeros is and what this monarchy is all about, but we're in a completely different group of characters and setting, then we might have been able to get a similar kind of thing to what Telltale was able to do with Walking Dead, but instead it is a very attached at the hip experience to watching the show, to me.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm almost jealous, even though I do think it's not as good of your experience having no experience watching the show, because I just really want to know what that is. Playing this game, but like I can't think about, for example, there's something that happened in this episode where Joffrey and Marjorie it was their wedding, and spoiler alert, Joffrey was killed during the wedding. I knew that was going to happen.
Good job, Mitchell. I did not.
Well, I knew that was going to happen, and I was thinking about it in terms of like, okay, how is this going to affect the politics of these characters, even from before it was going to happen? And I was hesitant to tell you, hey, by the way, this thing that we're leading up to with the wedding, it's going to have very specific impacts, because I was thinking like, well, it's kind of a spoiler for the game, but like the game's also designed for you to know that, because it's designed for people that watch the show.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting, like, if you don't know this, it kind of works, and if you do know this, it kind of works, but they work in different ways in different amounts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thankful that I'm not like totally lost. Like, I can still follow what's happening in the overall story of this totally fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you can. Yeah, I've.
Thanks, man.
I believe in you. I don't think there's any. I don't think it's that complicated once you, like, kind of turn your head off. And I think everyone who watches Game of Thrones does this. Turn your head off to when someone says, like, Maester Hajabunbling, you should go and talk to the Crestafall family in the High East. And then you're like, I can tell from how you framed that, I don't care about them. I can tell from how that was written and filmed that I do not need to care about the Hajafel family in the High East. That'll be someone else's job on the Wikipedia pages.
But what about the Hajafelds or whatever you said?
What about them? Exactly. Maybe Telltale might make a game about them. And then we'll never see them otherwise.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of why this has 6 episodes rather than 5. That first episode, it is kind of boring, but it does do a good enough job to kind of settle you in before, like, really taking the reins with its own story.
Yeah.
Like, I understand the broad concepts, the broad strokes of what's going on.
Well, yeah, in the first episode, we don't even get to play as Roderick or Asher at all. So, yeah, they kind of did need to do 2 episodes. The first episode to introduce Garrett and Mira, and the second episode to introduce Roderick and Asher. And that concludes the introduction, and now we're just in it with these 4 characters.
Right.
And also Ethan's memory is around and seemingly important.
You know what's something, like, in one of the other episodes, in episode 1 I think it was, I said it didn't feel too messy jumping around between so many characters. I feel like I was kind of feeling it a little this time.
Okay. I felt like it was, I could see that for sure. I felt like it was...
Yeah, it wasn't awful. It wasn't even, like, bad. I was just, like, starting to feel the pinch of, it was, like, some of these scenes are really short and kind of jumping around, especially since it's 4 characters now. It's fine, but I am kind of feeling it.
I think that Roderick in Ironwrath, his story, which seems to be, like, the central story, and everything else is happening around, because we care about House Forrester, so this is House Forrester. His story and Mira's story in King's Landing, they have such close interconnectivity, right? Like, sometimes your mom, Roderick's mom, your mom, is calling on you to say, like, hey, you should send a letter to Mira so Mira can try doing something with Marjorie so we can get this. And like, Mira can be working in her house's best interests very... still indirectly, because she's, like, in the political side of it all. But she's very active in doing it. Where Garrett and Asher are, I think, struggling to feel relevant in this. That's my take on it. Where Garrett's up at the wall, and there's clearly something Forrester related going on with the wall. He got this map this episode that leads to the North Grove, the thing that Lord Forrester cared about. So we'll see that. And Asher is trying to get an army for House Forrester, but, like, it's so... both of those things are so removed from the main conflict that the more they focus on that, the more I'm just wondering, like, okay, how... I'm sure it will come together at the end of the season, but, like, in the meantime, it feels like we're dealing with completely different goals. So I just feel spread out as a player, trying to internalize what's going on with each of these 3 settings, really.
Right. I really felt it with Asher in particular. Even though I like what they're doing with, like, that part of the story, I'm like, oh, I like this. I like this canyon environment. I like fighting this dragon we fight here. I think what they're doing is cool and interesting, but we're with them probably the least of any of these characters. Like, to the point where it's not even worth it. I don't know if this would be a good call. I don't know if this would work better. But I would maybe, like... I don't know, you have 6 episodes, maybe focus on 2 characters for 1 episode. Then in the next episode, let us spend more time with that. Let the Asher parts feel more fleshed out. It feels like we're just barely with them.
Yeah, that's an interesting call. I'm not positive how that would work, just considering that as divorced from the main plot as Garrett and Asher feel right now, having an entire episode where it's just their stuff, I think runs the risk of feeling even more like, dude, you left me on a cliffhanger with what's happening in Ironwrath last episode, and then I spent this whole episode at the wall? That's ridiculous.
I'd say the wall one is the most removed. But, you know, they're trying to bring Asher back with an army. I think that's at least connected enough. I want to see
I'm sure
through.
in how they resolve them, they will be very connected, including the wall stuff with the North Grove. I'm positive that is going to factor into it. But it's just taking a while to do it, and that's probably how we should feel in the middle of a season. We're now 3 episodes out of 6 into it, so fair enough. You're in the middle of the thing, but...
Yeah, you gotta wait for it to come together in the end. But, you know, maybe have an episode that focuses on one of those two, either Mira or Roderick. Something that's like one of the big tent poles of this story. And then take a little time to flesh out the other one. So you have that... You have that connection to what's going on, but the other parts can... Well, you know, the Garrett parts are fine. It really is just the Asher parts where I'm like, we were here for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I feel like there should be more to... Like, if we're going to be here for such a short amount of time, it feels like we're not doing anything with them at all.
Well, the job of
even though it
collecting
has
an
one
army
of the...
in a different continent... That's something that's like, even though I like the tone of what's going on in Essos with Asher and his crew, even though I like the tone, it's something I would prefer to see like off screen. I don't need to see your negotiations and how you got the army. I'll assume at the end of it you either did or didn't do it. Or the entire game's about that, because that's like a huge concept. So... if I'm dealing with the politics of the Foresters and how are we interacting with the White Hills at Ironwrath and how are we interacting with the Lannisters in King's Landing, that feels like such a thing that this additional other huge such a thing, like collecting the army in Essos, it kind of feels like it's just getting in the way of it.
I could see that, but to be perfectly honest, I'd rather it stay than the Garrett stuff. Even though I did like the Garrett part of this, I do like the tone of what they're doing, and I like those characters. So I feel like just cutting them out entirely, I feel like would be I don't want to say it's a disservice, because I get where you're coming from. It does take focus away from the other parts in a way that it doesn't necessarily need to. But I like those parts. I wouldn't want to lose. I want more of it.
What's interesting with this formula of game is that you can always sort of dive into the story structure and think like, well, I would have told it this way.
Right.
Which I think is proof that they did it well. Like, I think that's proof that if you're given this idea of a game and you can immediately think, well, I probably would have done it this other way, that means that you hadn't considered a game working like this before, and now it does, and you're excited about the possibilities.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Like, all of our ideas right now are different than the game. Like, what if Asher's episode... What if the whole thing was one episode in the middle of the season? But it was like a beefy episode. Any idea is... Like, it's not really our ideas. That's the game's ideas that we're playing with.
Yeah, personally, I wouldn't mind that. I was just thinking, and this is a bad idea. I don't think this would work. But I was thinking of it kind of like, what if they did a Sonic Adventure type style, where each episode was like the whole story up to a point, but from a different character's point of view. I don't think it would work the more I think about it, but I like things that do stuff like that. Like one episode is with Mira. And like one episode is Garrett's story of him going to the wall. I just think there's like too much going on that you can't really do that at like different points throughout. But it'd be interesting.
Yeah, with like all of the wall stuff and all of the Essos stuff, I could see that happening. But I do think that the back and forth between Roderick and Mira happening in real time of like, oh, is Mira gonna send a letter on your behalf, or is Mira gonna get a treaty with Tyrion going on? All that stuff, that feels to me very, very, very interesting, and I like the interactivity there.
Yeah.
So going through all of Mira at once or all of Roderick at once would probably lessen that feeling for me. But the other two, I could see it with Garrett and Asher.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm landing at. I wouldn't mind just like one episode to really focus on the Asher stuff. Give us more time with them, but also it would be a good way to get it just out of the way. So you could focus on, like, have an episode where they gather up their army, they have their little trials and tribulations. You get more time to establish them, but then also you can just focus on the other stuff afterwards.
So this is kind of related to what we're talking about right now. I'd like to talk about Daenerys Targaryen.
Ooh, feel free.
Do you remember this character?
I feel like I should, but it's not coming to me.
Okay, so...
Remind me.
Yeah, Daenerys Targaryen is kind of... by the end of the show, it's really her and Jon Snow are the two characters that we're treating like... if not protagonists, because, you know, there's so many different factions and no one's definitively in the wrong or right a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. So you'll have your Ramsay Snow where like, okay, clearly that guy is an asshole and a bad person. But a lot of the rest of it is just, hey, we're at war for non-morality related reasons. It's Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, and she was the daughter of the king. So she was a princess. She was the daughter of the king who ruled before the king who most recently died ruled.
Okay.
He was...
So the king before the previous king.
Yeah, so like at the beginning of this episode, the king is Joffrey.
Right.
But he's like a kid. He's like 14. Um, Before Joffrey, it was his dad, Robert Baratheon,
Okay.
who is married to Cersei Lannister. And remember, Joffrey is like not actually his son because Joffrey is an incest baby, and they're covering it up.
Cool.
We talked about that a little bit. Is that ringing any bells?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. So Robert Baratheon, he's been king for like 20 years. A couple decades. He became king because the last Targaryen king, and the Targaryens were the king, were like the monarchy for 200 plus years. Many years. He was old and senile and crazy.
Awesome.
So people were calling him the Mad King Targaryen, and they just
they
wanted
bring up
him,
the Mad King.
Yeah, they just wanted him out of power, and then Robert Baratheon came in and said, "I'll be king," and he was very jovial and well liked and popular. So they let him be king, and that was the end of that war. It was I forget the name of that war, but it was a war. Daenerys was the daughter of that last Mad King Targaryen. But when the Targaryens were ousted from power, all the Targaryens, including her and her brother, who is dead at this point, but don't worry about him. It's like her. She's the main heir to the throne by now. She was banished from Westeros, had to live out in Essos. And she's just, throughout her teens, I guess, she's very young, has been collecting influence and power in Essos, and people start following her because she's like this guiding light of morality and very, very popular with basically anyone she meets. And here's the deal. She has 3 dragons.
3 dragons?
Yeah, no one has dragons. They might be the last 3 dragons around.
Okay.
But she's got 3 of them. And we saw one of them in this episode. And at the end of this episode, the stinger was, which I think would not function as a stinger if you do not know who this person is Asher Forrester meets Daenerys Targaryen. She's in the blue dress at the end of the episode.
I assumed she was important.
Yeah, so that's her. She's just been... She's like this populist queen of slaves and last-born sons and the impoverished proletariat of the East at this point. Just because she was born from royalty, but she's kind of had to make a lot of this up for herself as she goes along. So we found one of her dragons. She's been looking for her dragon. The dragon's name is Drogon. Which is, I think,
a lame name.
I think so too. Yeah.
Oh, a dragon? I'll name it Drogon.
Drogon these nuts.
I changed a letter.
Was that funny what I did?
That was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you know.
All right.
I bet the people in Game of Thrones would have really eaten that up.
I think they would have liked it, yeah.
They would have said, "We've never heard that before. Did you just come up with that?"
Yeah. Captain Ligma of the Lannister guards would eat it up.
Yeah, imagine going back in time and just every joke ever made is now yours.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to do that movie Yesterday, but with like everything.
Yeah. Hey, why did the chicken cross the road?
And like they're cracking up already. Chickens are not people with thoughts. That's hilarious.
Yeah, a chicken wanting to do something.
A low-born like a chicken moving up to road crossing? I've never seen it before in my days. You think that would actually happen?
I'm beginning to see from whence the comedy sprouts.
So Daenerys is definitely like a fan favorite character, especially at this point in the show's run. Everyone really likes her and just what she's doing. She's rounding up former slave owners, and just like completely emasculating them, nailing them to crosses and letting them die, making examples of them, which seems like a murderous, crazy thing to do, and is a little bit, but is definitely like within the scope of Game of Thrones. Like, oh yeah, you delivered justice to bad people. Good.
Yeah, her heart's in the right place.
Yep. And that kind of circles back to why Asher and Beska, why Asher and Beska last episode were dealing with that slave owner. It probably had to do with the fact that Daenerys has put out, like wanted posters, the equivalent for any slave owners.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. They wanted to get the bounty on him.
Yeah, so that kind of comes back to Daenerys as well. She also goes by Dany.
Dany.
Yeah, like a Danielle equivalent. But again, it can't be a real name in Game of Thrones, so they gotta just make it a little wrong.
Yeah, it's like when you call a zombie a walker.
Yeah, it's like when you call a zombie a walker, or if you call me Mitch, it's exactly the same thing.
I called you Michael earlier.
Yeah, what's up with that?
No, well, that was part of the joke.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
You ever? What's the most wrong anyone has gotten your name while also sort of getting it right? Like
Justin.
Justin, yeah.
I get Justin a lot.
You ever get like Douglas? Doug?
No, but that would be weird because that's both my dad's first name and my middle name. So, like, Doug wouldn't be, like, too far off.
Dustin Douglas is a very fun... Dustin Douglas could be, like, your actor name.
Dustin Douglas Jackson just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. Good. Good for you.
Hey, thanks, man. I've been living with it.
So, we're talking a lot about Asher and this dragon. How did you feel about the Asher story this episode?
I wanted to see more. I was thinking, like, oh... We're fighting a dragon. This is cool. This is cool stuff. Is this the dragon episode? No, not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted more of it. I feel like they tease you with it. I like everything with Asher in this episode. I like later when they're getting what's his name? Croft. When they're trying to get Croft for their army. That scene was fun. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's just like the most fun I'm having with this story is the stuff with Asher, and we don't get to see that much of it.
Yeah, I think that if we did see that much of it, it would be very boring. Just like the process
like
of going around to different generals and saying like, can you volunteer some of your men? And they're like, what's the price you're going to pay? And you're like, okay, well, I found these coins. I don't know.
Right. And it's not like the kind of series where you can have like super interesting, fun characters for them to meet. Like they're pretty much just all going to be the same sort of, well, what's in it for me? It's not going to be like Borderlands where you get like, who's the guy in the first episode? The like sound guy?
The sound guy? Oh,
yeah,
Boombot, Rillaboom. Not Rillaboom. I don't think his name is Rillaboom.
I think that would be weird, but you know the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah, Boom Boss? Is it am I on the right track with Boom? I think I am. I probably am.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah, he's one of those good characters that we just have show up and fight Zero and die immediately, but
yeah, like you're not gonna get that with something like Game of Thrones. Like they're more. I don't know if I'd say realistic people, but
they're subtler. They're more subdued.
Subtler, yeah.
Yeah, because I think Tyrion is almost a cartoon character in how much he's composed and how clever he is amongst these. He feels like a Victorian era newspaper comic character. Like, I bet you haven't considered them. And then everyone laughs in Victorian.
Laughs in Victorian.
But it's like as much of a cartoon character as he is, he's still very within the reality of this universe.
Right. Exactly. You're not gonna have them go to like a camp of soldiers that are like dinosaur themed.
Right.
And say, hey, I'm the head dinosaur.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, he's the head dinosaur.
Yeah, he's the head dinosaur. You're not going to get stuff like that. You're just going to go around and talk to people and get probably the same results. But I guess maybe you're right. Keeping it minimal, it works better in these small doses we're getting.
Yeah, because that's the thing with the universe of Game of Thrones, where, like, it is high fantasy like Lord of the Rings. There's actual sorcerers around. There's dragons. There's zombies. There's mystical things. It's supernatural in a lot of different ways. But the premise of the books and show and now game are all very grounded in, like, yeah, but what would a real person actually be focused on in that kind of world? Probably still real people stuff.
Right, yeah, maybe we're the Walking Dead.
Maybe we're the White Walkers. Still haven't seen any White Walkers. I don't know if we'll see any White Walkers.
Yeah, they bring them up again in this episode, and I have yet to see them.
Yeah, they're just they're what they sound like. They walk and are white.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I guess I don't need to see them now.
So I guess we're kind of going in reverse chronological order, talking about Asher and Daenerys, because that's the end of the episode.
Well, we started with the end and then went back to the beginning. We're just kind of all.
Let's just talk about Asher though. His quadrant of the story.
Right.
He's running away from the people that he fought in the last episode, and Beska and Malcolm, your uncle, back from Ironwrath, and right. Beska, your sort of newer gal pal of the last few years here on Essos. They're fighting. They're squabbling all over the place.
Yeah, they're not really seeing eye to eye in a way that is. It's not like super in your face. It's not like they're like screaming at each other, but you can tell they have different. They're seeing things differently.
Yeah, and it's only with the perspective of having played about 100 of these Telltale games at this point that I'm beginning to appreciate. Like, this is such a Telltale thing,
right? Where
Malcolm and Beska cannot be friends, and you have to be like, well, but my friends are. I have to choose. So they're kind of like, from the very beginning of this episode, putting you in a position where you're going to have to start thinking about Malcolm's interests and Beska's interests, even though they're both here helping you with your interests. You need to choose which one you want to put in front of the other. And that comes to a head when you find yourself in a cave with a dragon who turns out to be Drogon. And you're just laughing at the name Drogon still?
Drogon sucks.
Yeah, no, you're right, though.
That dragon's cool. It's not like the dragon himself, but come up with a better name than that. Name him like Terry.
Yeah, that Daenerys named him because she hatched all of them from eggs, and I think that she messed up in that moment, yeah.
He was like the third one to get a name. He's like, all right, well, we already named one Pete and one the Enforcer.
There's... Okay, you're gonna hate this. Of the three, I forget what the other two names are, but one of them she names after her brother, and the other she names after her dad. And she was briefly married to a cow. That's Kahl, who's like a king of uncivilized horseback riding tribal people from Essos.
See, I thought you said cow as in the animal, and I was gonna say, you shut the fuck up right now.
They're probably hiding a cow.
Better get the serious toothpaste.
But she was married to Khal Drogo.
Right.
Drogo is the inspiration of the name Drogon.
That.
Yeah. So
I
just
feel like
through
maybe
like the guy's name, she ended up with just getting very close to naming a dog.
Well, I'm gonna name him after my brother Doug.
Duggan. Duggan the dragon.
Man, I bet she felt really stupid afterwards.
So Malcolm's
Drogon.
fighting all the soldiers, and Beska's
Right.
like face to face with the dragon. And you need to choose which one you want to help. Which one did you choose?
I chose Beska. I think I like Beska. I like their camaraderie and friendship. I don't really give a shit about Malcolm, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, I'm glad that you did, because I chose to help Malcolm.
Ooh, how did that go?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it in terms of what we talked about last episode, where if this game is really a game, the Game of Thrones within the fiction here, House Forrester's
Right.
just really trying to do it. I'm kind of trying to play everyone as a little bit cold and heartless, and just like, hey, what's going to help House Forrester here? Not die. And I
Right.
needed Malcolm alive. And that was a hard decision, and it made me sad, but I did choose Malcolm for that reason.
Well, that also is a choice that makes sense because we see Malcolm get hurt. Or is this after you choose him? I thought I remembered him getting hurt in the leg before you made the choice.
I don't think I got that at all.
Oh, yeah, for me, the Lost Legion are the ones attacking them, and it showed one of them like stab him in the leg, and I couldn't remember if it was before or after you choose to help him.
It might have happened for me, but they never go back to it in this episode for me.
Yeah,
so
it never really comes up.
Oh, it didn't for you
because
either? Then maybe it did happen for me.
Because if you choose to save Beska, he gets attacked by the dragon, and he lives. Like, he's not even that badly hurt, but he has like a really bad burn on his back from dragon fire. And that, I feel like, is the priority. That is the priority over getting stabbed in the leg.
So, yeah, Beska also lives if you choose Malcolm. And
Right, does she get attacked by the dragon?
She does,
By
though. It's like her
Drogon?
left arm. It's like her arm and shoulder.
Okay. Did she get pissed at you?
Yeah, she gets quite upset about it. Understandably so. I think that's very fair. And
guess what? Malcolm does too.
well, there's a time. So they're going to this guy Croft to try to recruit his men, and there's a time while they're like waiting for Croft to see them, when Malcolm isn't there, and Beska asks Asher, "Hey, buddy, what the fuck was that? what was that?" And I had the option of saying, "Hey, I just think that you're tougher than Malcolm. So, like, I thought he was going to die, and you were going to get hurt. And I just trusted you more to take care of yourself in that situation," which is a little bit of a lie, but I could see that being true, and also what I would have wanted her to hear.
No, I actually had that same thought after I had saved her. I was like, "Oh shit, maybe I should have gone Malcolm because she's tough. She's like beefier than he is."
I've
She could
seen
probably handle
dragons in this universe breathe fire and melt cement. I've seen them melt stones with seemingly very little exertion.
Right, but I feel like we could take him.
Yeah, but like Beska's pretty strong. So just the idea of anyone standing up to a dragon, I assumed I was killing Beska in that moment.
Yeah, that's why I picked Beska. I was like, I totally get your reasoning. Like, your reasoning it makes perfect sense, but I just like Beska more as a character. So
Sure,
I was like,
yeah.
well, I don't want to lose her. I mean, you bring up a very good point that I hadn't even considered, and would probably have been the right choice. But considering neither of them die, it don't really matter.
Yeah, like dragons are not off the scale. Like one dragon is not off the scale of Hiroshima levels of nuclear destruction. Just huge levels of destruction. So it could be that like Drogon's still really young in this scene. I don't really remember the timeline on that. But yeah, in any other situation, there's no way like you get burned on the arm and still have an arm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Malcolm was attacked on the back. He just has like a big burn on his back and shoulder.
Yeah, that is at odds with what I remember about dragons. But like it definitely, I think, made for a better scene where we're dealing with more like tangible threats. Because the idea of how strong these dragons can be is an intangible, like, this dragon could kill anyone at any moment for any reason.
Right. It would immediately put everything. It would be like, oh well, fuck all this other stuff. Who cares about this shit going on? There's a dragon out there that's killing everybody.
Yeah. Like, we're not talking about Mewtwo. We're talking about Arceus. We're talking about rewrite time space dragon.
Right.
I mean, not really, but like with the just how powerful this thing's fire is. Yeah.
Well, if you save Malcolm, he also is like, you saved her over me, huh? And I had Asher say, there was so little time, man. I just acted fast. And he says,
Interesting.
Lying, I see.
he called you out for lying?
He called me a liar.
Oh, that's interesting, because that is the reason basically, it all just came down to like, I don't know.
I gotta save one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you're a liar. And Ash is just like, oh, man.
Well, yeah, if you save Malcolm and Beska's talking to you, she actually buys the thing I told you that I told her, just that you're stronger than Malcolm, and I actually thought you could deal with it.
Yeah. She seems like the kind of person who would believe that. She'd be like, well, I don't want to brag, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're dealing with like just regular fire and not absolute Armageddon fire, then she is kind of just more able to deal with that. It sucks about her arm, but that's fine.
Yeah. It's fine, whatever. Yeah, Malcolm also calls you out on making bad decisions. And I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, from your point of view, I can see how you would think that's a bad decision.
Yeah.
So Drogon kind of flies away, and then you go see Croft, and Croft is a real jokester of a guy. He's sort of like a bandit leader, and he's got bad blood kind of with Asher. He seems to have lost an eye, not because Asher did it, but like as the result of something Asher had done in the past.
Right.
But they're cool, and after threatening him jokingly, Croft actually introduces you as Asher to Daenerys, and where we leave off is just, it looks like if we help out Daenerys find her dragon, because she doesn't know where Drogon is. If we help Daenerys, then we'll probably be given an army to work out what we need to do.
Yeah.
The Unsullied are a group of eunuchs. You know eunuchs?
Remind me.
Eunuchs, this is a real life word as well, are people who have been castrated.
Right.
At a young age in order to be grown into people without certain sexual urges and or just ways of being.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, she's got a lot of those people that were they were that way because of slavery.
Okay.
But now they as free people have decided to fight for Daenerys. I'm betting that Asher's going to bring back a small group of Unsullied to fight for House Forrester.
I could see that.
Yeah, so like the cutoff of this episode is Daenerys turning around and saying, "I heard you know something about my dragon," and then like it cuts to credits, which I think, just given how popular this character is, I understand why they did that. But compare it to the funeral song at the end of episode 2, or the death of Ethan at the end of episode 1. I think this is a lot weaker. I don't know if I'd say
a lot weaker, especially if she's a fan favorite. Like, I don't have that connection, so it's hard for me to really judge. But like, I could, if she's like a favorite character of Game of Thrones fans, I could see it being like, no fucking way.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, and I can't at the same time, because like, she's on the UI of the start screen.
Right. Oh, that's true.
Yeah, like you see her face.
So it's not a reveal.
Yeah, it's not much of a reveal, and especially as soon as you see Drogon, you're like, oh yeah, okay.
I don't know if I'd blame that on the ending necessarily. Like, they should have just not put her on that menu.
That's true too. I kind of feel like if you're at the Wall, you're going to see Jon Snow because he's in charge of the Wall right now. That just makes sense to me. And if you're in King's Landing, because Marjorie is not like a principal character so much. She's like a side character in the show. Cersei and Tyrion are very principal characters, but all three of them, like, if you're dealing with royal family stuff, it makes all the sense in the world that you'd see those characters. Yeah. Daenerys is the one that starts to make me feel like, okay, this family just knows everyone. This family just knows like all the important people from everywhere. That's kind of it's starting to get a little fanficky in that regard of just like the implausibility of how many people this one family of low nobility just is in communications with, especially at this time where like between the Red Wedding and so when Joffrey dies, he's like poisoned with wine, which you didn't see, but his face turns purple, so they call it the Purple Wedding.
That's clever.
Yeah. So between the Red Wedding and the Purple Wedding, like some of the most important moving and shaking in this world is happening right now. And we just happen to be in the middle of it all. And we're also just randomly meeting Daenerys Targaryen. The whole thing is starting to feel a little convenient. So
they're wheeling in all the stars people want to see.
Yeah. Well, I think like the exact number of stars that they could get access to, right? Because we've got how many is it now? We've got Jon Snow, Marjorie, Tyrion, Cersei, Daenerys. That's 5. Ramsay Snow.
Right.
I think that's everyone. Everyone so far. We're only halfway through. That could potentially double in the next 3 episodes. I don't think it will, but yeah, that's 6
They just
people.
have the whole cast in there.
Yeah, like Ramsay also feels very believable because the point of this part of the story is the Boltons are taking over the North because they are like the favored warden family of the Lannisters, who have taken over the South and are more in charge of like the whole country. So Ramsay Snow, being a Bolton, showing up, that makes sense. It's this other stuff here with Daenerys of like, this is pretty convenient that we're seeing them too. So like for me, it was a little less impactful and less about like the singular story that we were taking care of here. Of like, wow, Ethan, I totally thought we were just going to keep playing as Ethan and now he's gone. Or that just the song during the funeral last episode was so strong to me. Especially because they bring it up a couple times of like, Talia, you got to write a song. I bet it's going to suck. And it really doesn't. They really make it a good song. I wonder if that was Jared Emerson Johnson. I bet it was.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, he is the composer for this season.
Yeah, I wonder if he wrote the words to that song.
That might be worth looking into.
Can we just take a moment? Isn't Jared Emerson Johnson amazing?
He rules. His stuff is like always so good.
It's always so good, and it's like a huge range. From Sam and Max, you have that jazz stuff, and that sort of like comes out a little bit again in other things like The Wolf Among Us, and maybe a little bit of Monkey Island, even though that's not jazz, but it's similarly kind of fun and cartoony.
Well, he also didn't
jumps into, huh?
Well, he also didn't do Monkey Island.
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, I wonder how it would have sounded. Like, I get you want to get the guys who are just like the Monkey Island composer. I think he was still like connected in some way. He did like audio design or something.
Well, he
like,
voiced the Marquis.
Yeah, like he was still connected to Monkey Island, but the main composers were Michael Land.
Yeah.
I think that was it. Yeah.
I bet he did sound design and other things. But
yeah.
Like he can do that, and then he can do the contemplativeness of Walking Dead, and now this sort of like more epic fantasy stuff in Game of Thrones.
He can just
amazing.
nail what they need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Genuinely chills thinking about that, gentleman. Chills, I say.
I was just... So lately while I've been working, I've just been putting on videos of the Poker Night games in the background. Just to, just something to listen to while I'm working. And he does, like, remixes of various songs that just fit the inventory, but they're like there's, like, a smooth jazz version of Trogdor in there.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really great, especially considering some of the songs he remixes are his own, and it's in the same style he originally did it, but it still feels like someone else took it and remixed it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, which I imagine is very difficult, but he really pulled it off.
And I'm so glad he's still so willing to come back, like those new songs he did for the Sam & Max remasters.
Yeah, I mean, he's got such an interesting thing where musicians, you don't necessarily need to be associated with any one company, because you just make your own stuff, and a lot of the time composers are like enlisted as free agents to do specific shows or games.
Right.
They're not like long-term employees of studios. Sometimes they are. Often they
freelance.
Are. Yeah, they're freelancers. But Jared Emerson Johnson was just from the beginning to the end of Telltale. He was just there the whole time, absolutely killing it.
Seriously. Like, so much music for, like, every episode.
Do we know if he's associated with The Expanse or Wolf 2?
I'm not sure. I would bet money he's at least involved with Wolf 2. I'm not sure about The Expanse, since it's kind of...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He could totally be doing The Expanse, but maybe just since he's already connected to Wolf Among Us, I feel like that's a safer bet.
I think that's probably true, yeah. There was a very small scale adventure game put together by like 6 or so people that came out a couple years ago that I forget the name of, but it was like the Blue Shoes, something about Blue Shoes, and Jared. It was like 6 people from Telltale, and Jared Emerson Johnson was just also on that, which makes me feel like, oh, if anyone's doing some Telltale games, or Telltale adjacent feeling things, he'll just come around and he'll do it.
Yeah,
especially because he's not even 50 now; he's just in his 40s.
Don't tell me that. That's crazy. And he did like so much great music just already.
He might not even be in his 40s. Hang on.
I think we discussed this before.
Yeah.
And we were similarly flabbergasted.
Yeah, we have. But I think the number that amazed us before was that he was only 23 when he started work on, or when he was doing the work on Sam & Max for the first time, or even younger than that. He's okay. So as of right now, not to blow up his spot, but he's only 41 right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, kind of wild. Okay. He is confirmed for The Wolf Among Us 2, and
okay, cool.
Not confirmed as of the list that I'm reading, although it's still possible, but I don't know. Not confirmed for The Expanse.
Yeah, because Wolf 2, like, that's a new team, but isn't it like mostly composed of Telltale people?
Yeah.
Isn't The Expanse being made by a different company that's like it's the Life is Strange people, right?
It's one of the Life is, I don't think it's the original Life is Strange studio. It's it's one of the Life is Strange studios. Yeah, Deck 9 is the name of it. But there's also a lot of old Telltale people at Telltale proper who are assisting development with those studios.
Right.
So I think both of them have quite a bit of old Telltale in them, but it might be the case that Wolf 2 has more. I'm not positive on the breakdown of that.
Yeah, like I could see it go either way. I wouldn't say I don't think he wouldn't be on The Expanse. Just that it seems more it just seemed more obvious that he would be on Wolf 2 to me.
Makes sense.
Or more likely, I guess.
So, that's the whole Asher story. I don't think it was a big game changer of a story, with the exception of meeting Daenerys Targaryen.
Right. I liked it all, though.
Yeah.
I like what happened with these guys.
Yeah. I think that the decision to help Beska or Malcolm is going to sort of snowball into something later. But
it's gonna come to a head.
Yeah, it'll come to a head.
Yeah, like I think I said it in the last episode. I think these are just the parts where you can like have fun with these characters. Like it's not so grim. Like you can kind of lighten up a little, and I think I appreciate that. Like it's Game of Thrones. I know it's not going to be sunshine and smiles and lollipops, but I think having these lighter moments with these characters really helps balance things out.
Yeah. I mean, they fought a dragon.
Yeah, they fought a dragon, and then they were joking around with Croft later.
Do we want to talk about Garrett's stuff at the wall?
Sure.
So
I think we might as well.
I spoke last episode about not actually liking Garrett's stuff at the wall for that episode that much. It felt very, we're just getting trained up, and we're gonna meet some like a mean guy and a weird guy, and Jon Snow's there, but like we're just kind of doing boot camp stuff. This episode had more interesting stuff to me with Garrett
definitely.
at the wall.
Yeah, not just like giving Garrett something to do, but also you see more of this coming together with the people here at the wall.
Yeah, there's a really so they make you a ranger, probably because Jon Snow wants you to be. And he's pulling a favor for you. He's nice to you.
Right.
And that's the thing that your Uncle Dunkle.
Dunkle's a good word.
Yeah, your Dunkle told you to go be a ranger. That would help, he says.
Unkin.
Dunkle Unkin says, go be a ranger. And you do so. So as far as what you think that you have to do in order to like be useful for the family, you're there. And you go to a pledge at the Weirwood tree. A Weirwood tree is a tree with a face on it.
Yeah, I like this tree. This is the weird shit I like. Just trees with faces.
Yeah, there's more stuff about Weirwood trees and all that we could talk about, but it's effectively just a tree with a face on it. Don't worry about it. It's spiritual in some way.
I wish it talked. I thought it was going to be like the tree from Pocahontas.
Boy howdy, could we talk more about this tree, Dustin? But we don't need to.
It's not important for right now.
For this, it's not important. They did a cool thing where they put the pledge you're about to take to join the Night's Watch on the screen, and you need to like manually progress through each line of it by pressing a button, and it makes you, the player, feel like you're taking the pledge.
Right. That was cool. I didn't realize that's what they were doing at first, because I didn't press A right away, and then I noticed everyone else was saying it, and I was kind of lagging behind.
Yeah.
I had to start saying the other ones fast to catch up.
Oh, that's funny. It's almost a rhythm game, because I got a few of them like a second behind or a second ahead, and then I figured out the rate at which the other people were talking.
Yeah, same. About halfway in, I was like, all right, I gotta wait like a second before I press it.
Yeah, but you're not going to be graded or anything. It's all just sort of...
Yeah, you just don't want to look like a fool.
Yeah. So you do that, and I think that's kind of the genius of what Telltale's able to do with this format of... we don't divert from the format of just choosing the answers that your character is going to give to other characters' questions very often.
Right.
But when we do divert for stuff like this pledge, it's so purposeful and it feels so singular within the story of the game that, like, okay, I, the player, have now taken a pledge. I'm going to feel weird when I go against this and desert the order or something like that.
Yeah. I kind of felt that way. I kind of felt like, well, Garrett made this pledge to these people. It's going to suck to have to break it.
But
even if I gotta.
He will. He will break it.
Yeah, he definitely will.
Yeah. Like the whole deal, while I'm here the whole time, like, I only even joined the Night's Watch to get to the North Grove. Like, if that's Garrett's part of the story, then I'm doing that. I only even became a ranger to go north of the wall and then leave the Night's Watch and find the thing. So, like, they're introducing this somewhat minor, if we can be honest about it, somewhat minor moral repercussion of going to do the thing you're supposed to go do. Just to conflict you a little bit as the player.
Right, like, I know that's what it was leading up to, but I was still kind of like, well, you know, I kind of made these friends here, and I kind of took this oath.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree that this Garrett section is getting me more interested in what's going on with him. Yeah, last time was just, all right, he's here, we got to do the training stuff. But here you have the ulterior motive set up, and you get the guy who killed his family coming in.
Yeah, that's another aspect here. Two things happen to Garrett. One is after you take the oath, like immediately after you take the oath, Dunkle Uncle comes up and he's like, hey, I've got this map for you. It was from Lord Forrester. It might show the location of the North Grove. And you do a little puzzle with a weirwood tree thing on the map and you find out where it probably is.
That was fun. That was neat.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like this crazy, insane thing, but I was kind of like, oh, okay, when I figured it out.
Yeah, it had a interesting... I think about the drawing of that little puzzle. Someone put a lot of love into the drawing of that puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, they drew the little mammoth at the top.
They drew a little mammoth at the top, that's true. They drew all the little roots that need to go into a tree, but like can just look like rivers if the tree's not on the map.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens to Garrett is it's sort of similar to what happened to Mira last episode, where Sarah's just like, look, I gotta tell you, I'm drunk and I'm a bastard.
That's true.
Cotter, your friend Cotter, who stole the knife that was annoying last episode, he comes to you and he says, hey, I'm actually a wildling. I'm from north of the wall. I'm just here to get back home. I'm sorry for telling you this. I'm going to upset everything by making you carry this knowledge. Bye!
Oh, shucks. I just fudged everything up.
Yeah, I'm just a little stinker just telling you things that you shouldn't know. Okay, bye!
So long!
And what did you tell him? Because I told him, like, dude, why did you tell me?
I think I just picked, like, okay, thanks.
Did you promise to keep his secret?
I did. I mean, we're brothers now, man.
Yeah.
Even though he is just gonna leave.
He is just, yeah, he's already planning to desert to join his family.
Yeah,
again.
I mean that's fine.
It's what it is.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, so then, so that's what happens to Garrett, and then your arch enemy joins.
Right, the man who killed your fam. And what a real shit licker he is.
Yeah, he really licks shit.
Yeah, they really lean into him just being a real jerk.
Yeah, because Jon Snow kind of prepares you. This is another cool thing that I think these Telltale games do, where early on in this episode, it's between you and Finn. I think his name's Finn, the bully type guy. Who
kind of the meathead of the bunch. Yeah,
he's a meathead, he's mean, but at the same time, he could he's definitely the kind of character that could become a friend. You could imagine.
Yeah, you could pal around with him once you get to know each other.
Yeah, so like on your way to the Weirdwood Tree to do the pledge, Jon Snow is talking to Garrett and he's like, hey, I understand that you've got differences and Some people are more aggressive than others, but you need to be able to patch up this kind of rift with your brothers. This is not something that you can survive if you don't. And you're kind of put in the headspace of a player at this point who's like, okay, Finn was mean, but like, I'm going to make an effort.
Right.
And then they hit you
nice
with the escalation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this real fucker comes in.
Yeah, this real fucker who does try to kill you.
Yeah. That's not very cool, I think. You don't do that to a brother.
Yeah. So he murdered your family, and then he gets mad that because he murdered your family, he has to get sent up to the wall.
Yeah, you're the bad guy to him.
Yeah, and he really feels that way. So you're at the top of the wall, and this is the culmination of Garrett's story for this episode. You get in a fight with him, and I tried to not do the punches when like the QTEs were firing.
Same.
And he kills you. He kills you if you don't fight back, and you eventually have to die. He eventually has to die.
He shoves an axe through your neck.
So what do you do with his like body? Because you can. It's a choice of you kill him there, you leave him there, or you kick him off the wall.
I left him. I didn't want to kill him. I was like,
I left him too, but I really wish I kicked him off the wall.
Yeah, especially considering what happens right after.
Yeah, Finn sees you, and then he runs and says, I'm telling.
I'm telling, even though we were friends earlier, and I'm not going to let you explain it. Because he straight up comes at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't even try to kill him.
Yeah.
But you could have pushed him off, and then Finn wouldn't have seen.
By the way, this is the first time I've died in this season.
I think I died last episode. When was it? I think I got Mira killed at one point.
Oh, by the Lannister guard?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But
so if you die, it says Valor Morgulis, which is a phrase you say about death. I don't remember what it translates to.
Awesome.
Actually, I want to look that up. Valor Morgulis. Valor Morgulis.
I wish I could have saved your ass. I wish I could have been like, I know, Mitchell. Don't worry. I'll tell everyone what it means.
What do you think it means?
I don't. You died.
It translates to all men must die.
Oh, I guess they say that because you died.
Yes. All men must die. That's
a true statement.
That's just physics.
Yeah, what about animals?
Not all of them.
Some just go on forever.
I wonder if there is an animal that's like, it doesn't really age, so... Because trees can be like that sometimes. Trees are often, like, have an infinite lifespan if nothing happens to them, but just because they're so stationary, something's going to happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Like trees that are hundreds of years old.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we find out, like, some sort of crab. It
turns out the common frog can live up to billions of years.
Yeah, if no one messes with it, but everyone's always messing with it.
I'm gonna step on this frog.
Yeah, so I liked that, just the intricacies of Garrett's place here. I'm very ready. I'll say it here now. I'm very ready to desert the Order, the Night's Watch.
Right.
Especially because now they think I killed a guy, that I'm probably going to get, like, hanged for it, so I'm just running.
Yeah, I don't really feel that connection. It's going to be like, oh, brother, where art thou?
Yeah, Jon Snow's going to be mad about it, because he's like, I trusted you. You know,
man.
I trusted you.
That was great.
We were brothers, Garrett.
I noticed it last time, but now, especially after you brought it up, you can just see how different he looks compared to everyone else.
Jon Snow? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, the other characters from the show, I think, are fine and, like, blend in well enough. But Jon Snow, you look at him and you're like, your hair and lips, you do not belong in this world.
Yeah, I wonder what it is, because I think Tyrion looks all right.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't think we saw Cersei much. We did see her a little bit. I remember her looking fine as well in the face.
Yeah, everyone else I think is like fine, and that it's really just Jon Snow where I'm like, you have a face made for TV.
Yeah, he's just got it. Maybe he has such a specific look.
Yeah.
That if you did it in the actual style of the rest of the game, it wouldn't track.
Right. I could see that.
Yeah. I bet you could have done it though. I bet it would have been fine.
Yeah. Probably.
So that's everything except the real plot of the game. An hour and 15 minutes into the podcast.
Oh man, we still have 2 people.
Well, I think it was less eventful. So maybe we can carry. Do you think that you could do it in 1 minute like we normally do, but just for Roderick and Mira?
I don't think I could.
How about just for Roderick?
Well, not much really happens with Roderick.
You did it.
Cool.
You're right. Not much really happens with Roderick. There's a bit more.
The White Hills take over their house.
Yeah, the White Hills are encroaching even further. Griff Whitehill comes around, who's like the 4th born son of the White Hills.
What a dick.
And he's not entitled to much, actually. And the White Hills were only ever supposed to stay in like the front lawn. But
right.
Griff Whitehill,
he's like, no, we're gonna go inside now. This is ours.
Yeah, just with his powerful muscular men that he brings around with him, he's making a stand of like, I'm going in your house now, Roderick the Ruined, and I'm going to be sleeping on a bed in there.
And Roderick's just like, okay.
Yeah, he's all right. That's fine.
Well, you can choose whether or not to stand up to him. I decided not to because we talked to what's her name?
Gwyn?
Gwyn.
Yeah, one of the Whitehill daughters who is was the one in love with Asher before he was banished. And it seems to be more sympathetic to us and really doesn't want war, just wants peace. She's like against her father's will, or like without his knowledge, coming around to warn Roderick of like, hey, if you just submit to Griff and don't try to like stand up to him like an asshole, you can probably get around this. So if you take his
just ride this out.
They do the player a favor by not having this interaction be in front of your new fiance.
Well, your new fiance.
Roderick's new fiance.
Well, not all of us.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. You didn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you, Dustin.
Yeah. I had almost forgotten.
Yeah. The Glenmore Elaine, not Elaine, Alena? What's her name?
Something like that.
Is it Elena?
Hey, as soon as she turned me down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
As soon as she said no to you, she's just out of your life.
She's out of my thoughts.
Yeah, but she has not been like sticking around. I think she went back home to the Glenmores, and
right.
Someone just rang my doorbell. This is cool, but
ooh,
you need to lie down on the ground because Griff pushes you down, and he's like, "Stay down," and then you can choose to get up and try to fight for yourself, but like you just got to stay down.
Yeah, that's what I did. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to make things worse.
Yeah. You're playing a game, and everyone there. I was thankful for this because normally in a situation like this, I think Telltale would kind of throw you like one character who says, "I can't believe my lord just lied down on the ground like that."
Yeah, kind of like kissing a ring almost.
Kissing the ring is, I mean, that was one thing, but this, everyone here, even Talia, who I think was the one who's like, no, you should get up. Even her afterward was like, okay, you played the game pretty well though. That was the right call in that moment. You need to not be prideful in order to win this in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's kind of that story.
That's it, really. There's
something else that Mira's involved with Rod. I forget what you have to do with Mira in this episode.
Well, don't forget, you also find out there's a traitor in your council.
Right, you find out there's a traitor in your council. Okay, good point. Who is the mole, do you think? I have no idea. I have theories, but I don't actually know.
Shoot, what's his name? The army guy? The guy who's like running your army, who I didn't select as my guy.
Sir Royland?
Royland, that's it. I'm glad you remember these names better than I do. I just remembered him as the army guy, the angry man. Maybe him. Maybe because he wasn't picked by Ethan.
Yeah, so Sir Royland's an interesting choice. I could see that because he wasn't picked by Ethan. But like the other aspect of that is, if you did pick him, then he wouldn't have been a mole. And I think that's too much for the choice to impact.
Right. Maybe it was Dunkeluncle.
Yeah, so Duncan is interesting because in that case he would be the mole either way. And that is kind of where my gut's going of like maybe he's interested in the North Grove because whatever it is, if it's a treasure or power or something, he wants to claim it for himself. And he's been like, it was his idea to be more passive with the White Hills and give them wine and stuff. And I can imagine that someone who is secretly with the White Hills would be like, oh, give him wine. That'll really get him.
Oh, yeah. that'll sure show them.
Yeah, it feels like a tactical thing, but as soon as you're thinking of like, oh, he's just trying to fuck with me, it makes a lot of sense as well. Yeah, it could be Duncan. That'd be a good guess. Now I'm afraid of him.
You talked me into it.
The other one...
you weren't a Dunkel at all.
The other one I wrote down on my notes here as a possible guess was Master Ortegran.
Yeah, I was just about to see him. I was just looking through my notes to remember what his weird-ass name is.
Yeah, Ortegran. It's almost orangutan.
I was gonna say he should have been an orangutan.
Yeah, so he's like... If it's him, I think that would fall a little flat because...
Just because he hasn't really been much of a presence. Like, he's been there.
Yeah,
but
he was there for Ethan more. But for Roderick, he's not really that...
He's just been kind of in the background.
Yeah, and like, in everything he's done so far has been helpful. He's just a Meister. He's a doctor. It would be weird for him to have any kind of reason that matters.
Exactly. He hasn't really been a player in this part with Roderick, so it'd feel more ass-pully.
Yeah, and basically everyone else is a family member who, if it's a family member, then I simply don't.
It just wouldn't make sense.
Okay, well, here's the one family member I could see it. If it's the mom, and she's trading information with the White Hills in order to secure Ryan's safety. Because she's always been saying, like, from the beginning when Ryan was taken, she's like, hey, anything that endangers Ryan at all should not be the strategy that we pick.
Right.
So I could see that.
She's like the one person I told there was a traitor in our midst.
Oh, you told her? I didn't tell her.
I told her. I shouldn't have.
I told her that I met with Gwen and that she tried to tell me to just, like, there's a peaceful way out of this. I told her that. I did not tell her about the traitor.
Right. I hate to say this, and I the only reason I bring this up is because I know I'll forget if I don't. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at the audio waves in my Audacity recording, and one of them looked so like a fish.
Okay. I thought you were going to tell me something about the safety of our recording, so I was going to stop and note down the time code. We can keep that in the episode. We can keep this in the episode.
Yeah. Oh no, I said it to have in the episode. I knew if I didn't say it now, I would not have remembered the fish.
What kind of fish? Like a Jesus fish symbol thing?
Just like a standard like cartoon fish where it's like its body is long and then it has the fin.
Like a goldfish cracker?
Longer than a goldfish, like a salmon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
I just, sorry to derail the conversation, but I knew it would never have been brought up if I didn't just say it, if I didn't just break out now and say, I look like a fish.
I get to look at that wave later, so I'll rank it.
Cool.
I'm writing down the time code. Yeah, I'm writing down the time code in my notes, circling it, and writing the word fish.
Fish?
With a question mark.
Maybe.
So that's their whole thing. Roderick's playing a very slow game of just waiting for his siblings and associates to bring him good news from the Wall and Essos and King's Landing.
Right. I guess that's why the Roderick part doesn't feel very interesting in this part, because it's just things ramping up.
Mm-hmm. It's the real story here, but it's also kind of a container for the other stories more than itself a thing. Yeah,
exactly. I actually think the Garrod stuff is what was strongest in this episode, personally.
Yeah, the Garrod stuff was, I think, the strongest. And second place, I'd probably say, as I've been feeling continuously over the last few episodes, the Mira stuff I liked as well.
Yeah, I thought Mira's stuff was pretty good.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Mira stuff, because I think that was everything else.
I don't think it was as good as last episode because you don't have the Sarah stuff. Like, Sarah's there, but she's not fucking off her rocker. That was just great. But I do like that you are building this friendship with her.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since Lady Marjorie is so... Like, we start this season out with Marjorie saying, "Oh, Mira, we're so close. We're such good friends. Even though you're just my handmaiden, we're such good friends." And then she's just like a total jackwad in this episode. Yeah. Friendship with Marjorie ended. Friendship with Sarah all the way.
yeah, for sure. The one thing that Roderick had a lot of little choices that he had to make through, and I want to talk about just a couple of them before we move on.
Okay.
There was a scene in the woods where it's your mom and Duncan and Sir Royland and I think Master Ortegrin and you as Roderick all just talking about your strategy.
Right.
And you've got these two major problems, which is that Ryan is stuck with the Whitehills at their place, and Griff Whitehill has infiltrated your home. So you need to choose which one is the bigger priority right now, just to you, the player. Which one is... I like this choice a lot because it's making you consider what you think your goals should be. And then the whole rest of the game is going to be how did you accomplish them. But yeah, so I said saving Ryan is a better priority for me.
I also said that. That was my pick as well.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that, actually. Because
how come?
I mean, if we want to play it really, really dark, how would we feel if we lose everything that House Forrester stood for, but Ryan's alive, versus
but we get this
we
little
actually
kid back.
Succeed in carving out a place for ourselves to live and thrive, and we might lose just one more Forrester.
Right, but you told Ryan you wouldn't forget about him.
Yeah. I mean, I can't pretend to be the kind of
I
person that would trade the little kid's life for freedom and success. But I can see it.
But you're thinking, what if I was?
Yeah, because
the devil horns pop up on your head.
We've done things to other people more significant than that, just not our own family members yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Mira's stuff. It's become known to the Queen Regent Cersei Lannister that Mira has been talking to Tyrion behind both her back and Marjorie's back.
Right.
Cersei hates that. Not even for any particular reason about the deal they've made or anything. Just I hate my brother talking to people. That sucks.
Do not talk to that sucks.
That sucks when you talk. So you are in trouble for that. Marjorie, as you were saying earlier, just is really upset about that.
Jackwad is the word I used. Yeah, it's come on, cut me some slack.
Yeah, and I really like Marjorie.
He talked to me
as a character direction in this game, because she's not really trying to plot anything that's not immediately what she says she wants to do. She says she wants to marry the king. she's doing that. She is playing the Game of Thrones, but she's playing with all of her cards face up.
Right.
So when Mira's doing this thing of like, hey, I met with Tyrion on my own accord, Marjorie's like, hey, that is not how we do things. Come on, like we can play this game, but our thing is we do it out in the open, and it works for us. So come on, says
right.
Marjorie.
Come on.
So I understand Marjorie's anger at us for that, although there was kind of a weird bit in the episode where Marjorie asked me what that was about, and I told her I met with Tyrion about selling ironwood from the Forrester family. And Marjorie was like, okay, that's like way above what you should be doing as my handmaiding. I need you focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, that's what she said to me too. She said, like, look, I'm getting married. You just need to be a handmaiden right now.
Yeah.
Stop all this shit. But
then later we meet with Tyrion, and Tyrion says, by the way, the thing we talked about, it's on my desk right now. And it's about to be signed into law, which made me immediately know it's not actually going to be signed into law. Something's going to happen.
Yeah. So you did choose to talk to him. You can choose to just not.
You can choose it. You have to like pretend to be. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? What's on your desk? And like, I didn't think that made sense to do because I just told Marjorie that this happened, but I was. Well, I was saying, actually, right now, I need to be with Marjorie. I did tell him that. But after that, the conversation was, like, he just kept saying things.
He just kept going?
Yeah, he just kept saying, like, okay, well, I won't take you away from Marjorie, but the thing we talked about, it's on my desk right now. And then he left. And then Marjorie was like, what was that? Which felt weird to me, because he's just referencing the fact that we had already talked. And I already told Marjorie, yeah, no, we did that. I told you about this. But to her, like, it seemed for some reason in fiction of, like, Marjorie's mad at me for a second offense.
Right.
Instead of just a reiteration of, like, no, I did this, and I'm not going with him now. I'm following your directions of not talking to him. I did that, but for some reason it's still weird.
It's funny. I chose to go with him.
What happens?
Marjorie gets mad.
Publicly? Like in front of Tyrion?
No, but she, so you go with Tyrion and it's basically the same conversation. He's like, hey, this is gonna go forward. It's on my desk. Everything's great. But she is, like, silently mad at you. But it's like, you said I could, like, I know you said to stay with you earlier, but, like, when he asked if he could steal you away for a second, she's like, who am I to say no to Lord Tyrion?
Right.
So I was like, okay, see ya. I don't like you anymore anyway.
I mean, when she said that, I took that as like, who am I to say no to Lord Tyrion? Oh, I have to say no in order for Marjorie to not look bad. So I did that. But then Tyrion did that exact same conversation instead of privately, right in front of Marjorie.
Yeah.
So then I got in trouble anyway. And it felt bad.
So you just get in trouble either way.
You just get in trouble
so
either
Sarah,
way.
So if Marjorie says, Sarah will be taking care of my dress and hair.
That happened with
and
me too.
Mira's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, neither get to be there at the wedding.
Neither get to be there at the wedding, and I bet for you, Sarah was a little more, like, happy to help than for me, because I did not promise her back then of, like, oh yeah, I'll put in a word for Marjorie talking with you a bit more for you getting a husband or whatever.
Yeah, because Sarah, because one of the guards down there says, like, hey, I saw you with the guy whose name I forgot last night, and he went missing. What happened? And you can ask Sarah to just not, like, tell anyone. Like, you can... Oh, no.
No, I don't think that
I'm getting confused.
No, there's like confused. A guy. There's another guy that pulls Mira away from that conversation.
Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking of when you talk to Tom, the dirty boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you ask Sarah, just be like, "Can you please not tell?" And she's just like, "Oh yeah, totally. Don't even trip."
Oh, so for me, it was I took the approach of like, oh, thanks for saving me. That guy keeps talking to me.
just this like weird guy, you know.
Which is kind of true. It's
yeah, I guess.
In other situations in the past, he has been like a little weirdly active.
Yeah, he did save your life, though.
Yeah, at this point, he has already saved our life. So I'm like, okay, we'll talk. Going like immediately after that, Mira talks with the guy who was like negotiating on behalf of the White Hills for the Ironwood thing with Tyrion.
Right.
And they're talking to each other and they're like...
He wants to strike a deal.
Yeah, he wants to strike a deal of like, hey, if we compete with each other for Tyrion's approval, then we're going to drive both of our prices really low. But if we work together and sort of make an oligopoly of it, we can protect the price of our wood against Tyrion's negotiation tactics.
Right.
And I was kind of into that. I thought that was a fun idea. But then right at that moment is the purple wedding moment where Joffrey is poisoned and Tyrion is blamed for it. I did remember Joffrey would die from this. I did not remember that Tyrion was blamed for it. I forgot about that bit for a second.
I won't hold that against you.
Thanks, bud.
For forgetting.
Yeah. So Tyrion's deal, Tyrion's like walked out, and at that point afterward, he's a bit of a leper. No one wants to deal with him. No one wants to trade with him. They don't look highly on him. They think he killed the king.
Right.
I don't remember why they think he killed the king. He might have been the one to like pass him that glass of wine. Or something like that.
That seems like a reach.
Well, yeah, he didn't kill the king. It was shown very clearly from his perspective in the show that was not him doing that. He didn't realize what was happening.
Okay, see, as someone who did not watch the show, I just assumed, I guess he did.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, he would never. That's not his deal. He actually does against his better judgment, because Joffrey is a terrible person, an asshole, and he's going to be a tyrant. He does care about his nephew, and he wouldn't have done that.
Okay.
He's still a Lannister. He still wants to protect the honor of his family. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he's walked out, and any potential business deal that Mira could do with that guy is just thrown out the window, because now we're talking about it from the perspective of like, well, did you make a deal with the guy who killed the king? I don't think they're going to honor it. So you need to go into Tyrion's desk and find the agreement that he had written, that he told you about.
Right. This is one of the few silly things that stuck out to me. Is so after you get in, you figure that it's in his little locked up box.
Yeah, and it is.
And then once the guards come in, they're like, "Good thing we got these keys that could unlock anything in this room."
Yeah.
That's at the point where I was like, "Oh, all right, come on now."
Yeah, so you can get in the room by the help of the coal boy who comes back, whose name is Tom.
Yeah,
we learn.
Tom.
Yeah. And Tom the coal boy says, I've actually been hired by someone to keep an eye on you and make sure that you succeed. People want you to succeed, and I'm here to help you do it.
Right.
So I have no idea who that is or why that would be the case.
Yeah, especially since it seems like the opposite case is true too, with like the guard who tried to kill you the other night. He was saying like, hey, you're angering some people. You're making some bad enemies.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who this even would be, because if this was like Lady Forrester, if this was a Forrester paid person, then that would make sense.
Right.
There's some people that I know exist from the show that could feasibly want this to happen, but like we haven't seen them and that would feel weird. Like Duncan could have theoretically done something like this. This feels like a Duncan type move, but he would have said that. Like he would have said he's doing that.
Yeah, Duncan's too busy being the traitor.
Yeah, and plus like without knowing a lot about how King's Landing works, why would just hiring one more person to look after Mira be that much of a difference?
Right.
Yeah.
Just some random boy.
Yeah, this particular Coal Boy knows a lot of the ins and outs of how castles are. So that helps.
Yeah. That's true. He is the one who breaks into Tyrion's office.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun to the stealth that you have to pull off in this episode is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So you get you get the agreement that he wrote out, and I really hate this. You bring it back to your room with Tom the Coal Boy, and you're about to put it on the fire, and then it gives you a choice of either burn it or keep it, ignoring the obvious best answer of read it, find out what it says. Because, like, I'm positive that Tyrion was playing some games with me, and, like, he didn't actually write exactly what he said. He either made it the opposite, because the outside of the letter only says, "Re the Foresters," or Forester.
Right.
It might say, "I've chosen not to make a deal with the Foresters," or or like maybe it's only half filled out or something. I'm sure that we will find out about that. But like I have to make the decision to either completely get rid of it or keep it around forever. Just read it. It takes 2 seconds to read, Mira.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad. Like I don't like this kind of telltale choice.
I chose to keep it.
Yeah, me too.
Because, like, just like you said, why, if you can't choose to read it, at least keep it so you can read it. Don't just burn it right away.
Yeah, yeah. But, like, I'm sure that the time we'll actually be able to read it, we won't be given the option to burn it again. Like, this was probably our one burn it option.
Well, that sucks.
I know.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either. That's what I'm talking about. It's very clear to me what they're kind of trying to do with the narrative of this letter, and I would prefer they have not done it.
Right. Well, better luck next time.
Better luck next time. I like the rest of the choices in this episode a lot. I think there's a lot that you have to think about. That one in particular kind of made me annoyed.
Right. Well,
yeah. Because depending on what it says, there might have been a very good or very bad reason to burn it.
Yeah, like where I'm at right now, I don't see any reason to burn it, but there could be later.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're asked to burn it before having a good reason for it, and that's not fun.
Yeah. Segments. Want to talk about segments?
Let's talk about them segments.
My weekly guy, Dustin, I'm taking charge. I'm saying it.
Okay.
Marjorie. Yeah.
That's very interesting considering what I was about to say.
That you didn't like Marjorie?
I was going to say I'm bringing back the weekly on Guy.
For Marjorie?
For Marjorie.
Whoa!
I did not. Marjorie is not my friend in this episode.
No, she's not your friend in this episode.
I thought we were cool, and we are so not cool. And like,
yeah,
and there's so many people who are not cool in this episode, but at least they're like upfront about being not cool. Like Griff. Griff sucks.
Well, I think that Marjorie's reasons for being disappointed in Mira are very understandable, and
right.
Because like everyone in Game of Thrones is trying to play the Game of Thrones, and Marjorie is aiming really high to be the queen of the entire country, right? And she's doing so capably, but so visibly, which is weird. Everyone else is trying these like back alley shady deals. Marjorie is completely above board about everything that she does, and that's a specific tactic that usually like the more like warm-hearted but kind of dumb people would do in a story like this. Marjorie's not dumb at all. And the fact that, like, yeah, she does like you a lot less in this episode, but because I've been shady and I've been doing stuff that would upset her, I felt like it was done in a really good way. But I also do recognize what you're saying, that she is mean to me in this episode.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, sure, she's playing the long game. She has a good reason for what she did, but she was mean to me, man.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't let me do her hair.
Well,
and her dress.
I can give weekly guide to characters that I'm supposed to not be happy with, though. That's right. My feeling.
No. Well, that's why I also didn't give weekly on guide to Griff. Like, Griff is a way worse douche.
Yeah.
But, he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Marjorie was this season starts out with Marjorie saying, "You know what? We're such good friends. We get along so well. It's so cool that you're my handmaiden. We're gonna be just friends for life." And now here she's like, "Fuck you! You not only do you not get to go to my wedding, you don't get to do my hair, and I'm so frustrated. I might just replace you." I'm like, "Fuck! Get out of here."
The other one I could have conceivably given weekly guide to is Garrett.
I gave it to Garrett.
Oh, okay,
I
cool.
just liked what we were doing with him in this episode. Like, he's not like a super cool, likable character. He's not unlikable. He's just not like super interesting. But I like the things he kind of had to. I guess he's my weekly guy just because of what he had to do in this episode rather than who he is. But I guess that's a good enough reason.
Yeah, sure.
Everyone else is just kind of doing their typical stuff. Which is fine. I don't think anyone does like a bad job in this episode, but I like that I was more into what Garrett was going through this time.
How about your choice cut?
So choice cut was hard. I didn't even have it until maybe like halfway through us talking about it.
Which one do you get?
Yeah, that's right, Mitchell. I lied to you when I said I had all my segments picked.
Wow.
Just whether or not to choose to save Ryan.
That was a good one.
That is one I was talking about. That is one I had to think about. It didn't really end up mattering a whole lot since it turns out they just know like all your plans anyway.
Yeah.
But it does make you think about like where your loyalties are, like what's important to you.
Yeah. So I have a very similar choice cut, which is when I was talking
lay
with
that shit down.
Also as Roderick, when you're talking to Gwyn, and Gwyn just asks you, "Hey, are you going for peace here and we can avoid war, or are you so focused on victory?" And
I am like so about the peace.
Oh, I'm actually a little more toward victory here, because
I was about the peace.
Yeah, I don't care for these White Hills much. They can die. That'd be fine.
Yeah,
they'd be allowed.
I don't either. But I felt like. I agreed when they said, "Look, we just don't have the army to do this right now."
Yeah.
We like so would be bad, but so I don't mind just keeping the peace right now. When we have an army, maybe things will be different, but for right now I'm like, yeah, I'll lie down on the ground, whatever, man.
Yeah, we're really in this place where like all the people that we're talking to are so important, but we're such a minor house of like Garrett on the wall is nothing compared to Jon Snow, and Asher is nothing compared to how Daenerys has been leading these people, and Mira is nothing compared to Marjorie or Cersei or Tyrion or Joffrey. Right. So the idea of victory for us is a lot more of a status quo change than peace. But yeah, I just want to.
That's true.
I just want to get Ramsay out of my house.
Get this guy out of here.
Yeah. So those are our choice cuts.
We have golden moment left.
Right. What is yours?
Mitchell? Oh, you're asking me what mine is. You really are taking charge.
That was coming to me.
You really are taking charge this episode. I liked Asher meeting up with Croft.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I just thought it was a fun scene. It had me going. I was like, oh, this guy did something to piss this guy off, like a lot.
Yeah, and
then it turned out they were just fucking around.
Croft makes you choose. Do you want me to cut off your hand or your eye? And then he puts the knife down. Is like, nah, I'm just messing with you.
You should have seen your face, and I just had no choice but to be like, "Yup, you got me."
Yep. My golden moment is something we didn't talk about, but it's some of the soldiers that have come into Ironwrath, into the Great Hall. And the soldiers are like doing this mock play about the death of Ethan. And they're making Ethan...
They're like, oh no!
Yeah, they're making him out to be the little coward kid who shit his pants. And Ramsay just like cut through him like a butter knife.
It was so easy.
Yeah, and they're doing it right in front of Roderick and the mom.
Right.
Just the whole time, Lady Forrester is like, how dare you portray him in that specific way?
I was there, and that is actually not how it went down. It is actually inaccurate.
Yeah, he was better.
Yeah, he actually did not say much because he died.
And you have to make the call of like, how angry do you want to present yourself as Roderick right now?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and just that whole moment in general was my golden moment.
Nice. Yeah. That's a good one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they are real assholes about it.
They really, really are. They're top-notch assholes about it.
Yeah, they make Ethan not only seem like a coward, but then they're like, I actually think the real death might have been like even worse than that when I like think about it.
Yeah, because like the actual way Ethan died is already rough. And they're like, oh, well, we have to exaggerate this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, I think you might have had more dignity just there.
Okay, so that's been our discussion about Game of Thrones episode 3, The Sword in the Darkness.
You know what? We started this episode by saying it was the lull. Like, not a whole lot to talk about. We talked about this episode a long time.
That's just what's going to happen when we've got these separate characters to talk about. I think these episodes are just going to naturally be longer. Dustin, before we started recording, I asked you a question about if this got a second season, which it did not, and I don't think it would now.
Yeah, I forgot that I think it was planned to. I remember looking in the list of Telltale games. A canceled Game of Thrones sequel season was on the list.
Yeah, I think the ones that they had like going were a version of Wolf 2, which is not what we're getting. Right. The Stranger Things game. And there was supposedly like a new IP as well that was like actually a Telltale original IP.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
So that was like actively happening when they were canceled. But there was a lot of other stuff like, yeah, they were probably going to go back to Game of Thrones, or they were probably at some point maybe going to go back to Borderlands or something.
Yeah, or like Nelson Tethers 3.
Maybe.
That was a lie.
Yeah, I don't think that would have happened, unfortunately. I do want more Nelson Tethers. Yeah. But unfortunately, his voice actor has passed away. And
that sucks.
We don't have access to more Nelson Tethers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we were talking like, if this game got another season, would you want more Forrester stuff? Like, would we want to see the growth of these characters? Or would we want to jump around to like a completely different place in the world and see another house and see another group of characters? Right. What do you think?
It's so hard for me to say because I have grown at least a little attached to the characters we've gotten. I want to see where their stories go. But I guess it just depends on how this story plays out. Maybe we don't need to see more of these characters going forward. Maybe it would be better off just seeing new people. I could see it maybe getting a little boring if we're just stuck with like all of these same characters. I'm sure it wouldn't be the exact same lineup of Garrett, Roderick, Asher, and Mira, or maybe it would have. Who knows? But it's really hard to say without finishing the season.
Yeah, that's true.
Inconclusive for me.
It's hard to say because I think this probably would have been a better narrative flow if all of it was more removed from the stuff that people who saw the show and read the books knew about.
Right, because you talk about bringing in all the stars. You think it would have been
Yeah.
stronger if it could just rely on its own stuff.
Yeah, like cameos or brief references to other things that happened, like I totally would understand and make
like
sense.
Walking Dead does.
Well, yeah, like Walking Dead does. But we've, like, at this point, just the Iron Wrath stuff is new for the game. And the Wall is like, it's Jon Snow's story up there. And Essos is definitely Daenerys' story. And King's Landing, I like what we're doing, being in kind of like the underground, talk to this person, make a sneaky little deal here. But at the same time, it's the Lannisters' story, period, in King's Landing.
You think we're just playing bit characters that, because you know how the series goes, they just can't end up being that important in the grand scheme of things?
I know they can't be that important. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, because I know how the characters that die. And it's not Forrester related. So, like, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, because like in Walking Dead, you can, like, there's nothing saying Lee cannot be as important as the characters in the comics or show, because they're just so far removed from one another. But here, it's like, oh, well, if you don't hear about these characters, you know they're stuck.
Yeah.
You just know. It's kind of like how in the Sonic the Hedgehog comics.
Okay.
Well, Sega, for a while at least, had, I don't know if they still do this, but they had a mandate where, like, these Sega characters, you cannot do anything too interesting with them, because they're important branded characters. Like, these original characters you bring in, do whatever the fuck you want, who cares? But, like, you can't go that crazy with, like, Sonic or Knuckles or something, because they're part of a bigger series. It's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know that these characters here, I guess it's kind of the opposite actually, but you know that these characters you're playing as just can't amount to much.
Well, these characters that we're playing as, you're right. Like they none of these characters are going to take over Westeros, right? They're no one's ever going to be king out of these characters,
right?
But they can get married or not, or die or not, or save their house or not. So they get their own agency within their world. And the more that we involve people like Daenerys and Jon Snow, the more we limit what can really happen around them.
Right. You just know that at the end of the day, if they don't die, they can't rise up to that same, like, main character of the series. You know what they can and can't do, what they're limited to.
Yeah. By the way, fun fact for you. You know the show The House of Dragons that HBO is doing, like, now?
Yeah.
So that show takes place 200 years in the past and is about Daenerys's ancestors as the, like, ruling party of Westeros at that time.
Oh, on account of the dragons.
On account of those dragons, yeah. Every house has a sigil, and the Starks are wolves, the Lannisters are lions, and the Boltons are a flayed man, and Targaryens are dragons. Targaryens are dragons. So it is the House of Dragons.
I like dragons better than flayed man. They're not as
I do
pets.
too. But I bring that up to say, like, that show is 200 years in the past and is about characters we've known about because the lore of Game of Thrones is so extensive and Lord of the Ringsian, where we just know like the name of every king and queen from the past. But they seem to be having a very interesting show where, like, anything can happen because most of these characters are ill-defined. And we know eventually it's going to lead into more Targaryen rule, but we don't know how we get there. That could have been a pretty good receptacle for a Telltale story where you want to make interesting stuff happen.
I agree. It kind of reminds me of a Donkey Kong's world.
Okay, we can't make a podcast for 3 people.
Well, I'm just bringing it up because, so I'm sure we brought it up on the show before, but it was our D&D campaign. You set that one, was it 300 years in the future?
Yeah, it was a number of years in the future.
Yeah, it's like that. You can get more creative with it.
You can. It was a Donkey Kong's world, not Donkey Kong's world, because it's a different Donkey Kong.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Different Targaryen. Same exact concept.
Wow, you should have written it.
Maybe. Well, Dustin, it's been good. Until next time, I implore you, please, I insist, have a great summer.
You know what? Since you said it like that, I think I will.